and welcome to Retro Wrestling Games Presents. I'm your host, Alex G, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing this evening, Matt?
I'm super!
Super. So tonight's episode will be WWF in your house for the PlayStation 1. Now, WWF In Your House was released in 1996 and is the sequel to WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, published by Acclaim Entertainment.
I'm watching the video, and Undertaker just broke Vader's back. Totally believable.
So this game featured digitized sprites, just like Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat being another game that was released by Acclaim. Guys, this is an arcade game, so it's not much of a wrestling game, it's more like a fighting game.
Oh, Ahmed Johnson's in it. Ahmed Johnson! Blah, blah, blah.
Ahmed Johnson is in the game.
Welcome to In Your
So the 10
House.
playable wrestlers are as follows. There's Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, Goldust, Ahmed Johnson, Triple H, Vader, and the Ultimate Warrior. In-game commentary is Vince McMahon and Mr. Perfect. But nice to see Mr. Perfect in commentary. I thought he was actually really good. So Matt, what are your thoughts on this game?
Ridiculous.
Yes, very over the top, unrealistic. There's magic involved.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I like the background imaging of the guys in the locker room getting changed. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The King of Hearts, the background scenarios are kind of fun to watch too. But yeah, the whole steel chair appearing, the fists on fire, kicking, stomping, it's like Dolph Ziggler made the move. Overselling.
He did the mocap.
And then he just headbutted Ahmed Johnson unconscious. It looks like Ahmed pissed himself because fluid was flying off him, which may have happened in real life too. I don't know.
It's very possible. So the backgrounds, you have a nightclub for Shawn Michaels, you have the dungeon for Bret Hart, and you have a crypt for the Undertaker, and there's a bunch of other ridiculous settings for the game. Again, it's based on Mortal Kombat, so again, a lot of the maneuvers are very Mortal Kombat-esque.
Yeah.
I was real happy to see Ultimate Warrior there, because I think this is his type of game, to be completely honest. It fits him really well, so...
Bizarre nonsense.
Yes. I mean, overall, it's a fun game. I'm not gonna lie. Is it good? Probably not. But it is actually kind of fun, and it's worth a playthrough at the very least, just to check it out and see how ridiculous it is. And again, this is right in the new generation shenanigans of the WWF, pre-Attitude Era. So, overall, it's a fun game. I did enjoy playing it. It was a good experience. Games are supposed to be fun. I know a lot of people who play some of these sports titles where you get into Madden or NBA 2K, that kind of stuff. They're really more like simulations. This is not a simulation by any means. Even the newer WWE games are simulations to an extent, but this is 100% arcadey fun. So if you like that style, this is a game for you.
Yeah, I'm watching Undertaker take on Vader and Ultimate Warrior, and he's destroying them both.
Yeah.
Do the job. Although Undertaker looks, spry and fit, and Warrior looks good, but Vader looks thin for him.
Yeah.
Oh, Vader.
He was, when he got into WWF, he wasn't in his prime at all. So
No.
his prime was definitely Japan and WCW.
Leon Bullwhite.
Yeah, Baby Bull. Bless his heart. So we're going to talk about the In Your House pay-per-view that they had back in 1995 was the first one.
Yep.
And these were cheaper pay-per-views. They were only about $20. Some of them were $14.99, I think the earlier ones. And they were 2 hours long. And you didn't see your WrestleMania type matches. Very similar to what you would see on a Saturday Night Main Event or a Clash of Champions. Eventually they did go to 3 hours, and they actually dropped the In Your House moniker, and then that's how you get your 12, 14 pay-per-views a year based on all the In Your Houses that they had.
Yeah.
So those were real interesting at the time. The first one, they gave away a house, hence the name In Your House.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So they gave away a house, I think in Florida, and I think the people actually moved into that house and lived there for a little bit. I remember seeing an article on it. But this was in reaction to WCW adding more pay-per-views to their lineup, which I think they had 9 pay-per-views, and then they went up to 10, and then they had monthlies after that. So the WWF at the time, creatively being not as where they should be, or they're trailing in the ratings war or what have you. Thought these pay-per-views would help, but if you look at some of these cards, like the first one, the main event was Diesel versus Sid for the championship. And then the second one was Diesel versus Sid for the championship in a lumberjack match. Not the best cards all around. They were just lots of shenanigans. Like another one was Goldust versus the Undertaker for the Intercontinental Championship in a casket match. I mean, again, not a whole lot of meat to the sizzle of the show. They do get better as they go on, and some of the names they actually probably kept, like Backlash became an annual pay-per-view, Judgment Day, Fully Loaded, Over the Edge, No Way Out. Those all started as In Your Houses, and then they just dropped it In Your House.
Well, I will say I think now with the fourth, the pending more pay-per-views, I really think that pushes the $9.99 membership to the network as a deal,
Oh, definitely agree. I mean, first of all, we'll talk about the network briefly. I think for the $10 that it costs a month, there's so much value there that it's ridiculous. I mean, in addition to your monthly pay-per-views or now your twice-a-month pay-per-views, you have your NXT on there. You have their specials. You have all pay-per-views that ever happened in the WWE. You have all the WCW pay-per-views. You have the ECW pay-per-views. You have all the Clash of Champions, all the Saturday Night's Main Events on there. So there is definitely a lot of content for that, for that network. And I think, for $10, it's a great value, especially for someone like me who watches wrestling constantly. So, it's always on in my house. So, but looking at going forward, they had trademarked the name Clash of Champions earlier this year. And it looks like their first brand-specific pay-per-view will be Clash of Champions that will be occurring in September. So, hopefully they use a little bit more of these WCW names. Hopefully we see a Halloween Havoc, Starrcade, Spring Stampede, those kind of shows, because they own the rights to them. So why not use them? Great American Bash is another one. We talked earlier about hopefully we'll see a War Games, but I don't see that coming because of the 2-ring deal.
Yeah,
but they could probably do a 8-man tag in one cage or doing the Hell in a Cell or something. They'd be a little bit different. So I'm excited to see that. So Matt, what's your thought on these B pay-per-views? Again, they were super cheap at the time, as low as $15, and then at some point they got raised up to $20. Do you think they were worth it back in the day?
I think when you were paying $40-$50 for like the big pay-per-views, it was a good deal. But remember the I forget what year it was, but there was this Tuesday in Texas, the Scramble.
That was the first attempt at doing something different. And that was like 2 weeks after Survivor Series, and that one failed, really, really bad.
Yep.
But it was a very similar concept. So
I think it's not a bad thing to offer a good package difference, price maker, if you will, especially when you have so many. High, like what's WrestleMania now, like $80, $90?
I don't even know because I got the network, so fuck that shit.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, it's like it behooves you to join the network and just save some money.
But to be honest, before I had the network, I wasn't paying that much for WrestleMania. I wasn't going to pay for that. Plus, the product wasn't something that I enjoyed at the time. So I think I missed the last 5 WrestleManias, to be completely honest, because it wasn't even worth my while.
Yeah. Well, it's improving slowly and steadily.
Oh, definitely agree. I mean, with the brand split and what have you, and the critical acclaim they got both on that Raw show and the SmackDown show directly following the draft. I mean, we're going in a great direction, and I think we're right at the precipice of a boom period once again. And it was funny because I mentioned on one of our shows that I thought they should put Finn Balor right in the main event and give him a title shot right away. It was like they were listening, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening, guys. We appreciate your support.
Yes.
And I'm available. I'll send your resume if you want.
Going into the SummerSlam where they have Finn versus Seth for the Universal Championship and Ziggler versus Dean for the WWE Championship. That's real interesting. That's really kind of setting where they stand on certain guys. It's like, all right, they don't give Dolph Ziggler an opportunity here. They already have a lot of trust in Finn to deliver a main event type match at SummerSlam, which he's more than capable of doing.
Right.
With Seth Rollins in there with him, who's another amazing performer. They should actually kill it. Interested to see those matchups.
Yeah. I like what they're doing, so.
They had jobber matches on there.
Yes.
Yes. So they had Braun Strowman in a jobber match. They had Nia Jackson in a jobber match. And then you're seeing the return of Rhino, which was a nice little surprise. Although he's been around at NXT for a little bit. You know, kind of coming in and out. And then you had a video package for Shelton Benjamin, who will be returning to SmackDown shortly. So I'm wondering if he's going to get involved with America Alpha, since they seem like to be a world's greatest tag team kind of copycat.
Yeah.
So I'm real interested to see what they do there. And hopefully they bring in Charlie Haas and see where it can go from there. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So overall, do you think going to a pay-per-view a month, you think that was good for the business at the time? Or you think having your 4, maybe 5 pay-per-views a year, you think that's a better model?
I think if you have it be a price point friendly thing and make it, more importantly, worthwhile. I think one of the problems in the business is that they've overexposed the championships. Or when they are defended, it's like, well, you argue with so-and-so. Well, you get a title match tonight. Whereas if you have a build-up to it and it's constantly working towards a title shot, it means more. And I think if the pay-per-views offer something like, you're only going to see this kind of match on a pay-per-view. You're not going to see a steel cage match on Raw or SmackDown. You're not going to see, whatever. It's a way to draw fans in. I think it's really important to offer something different.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, some of the In Your House cards they're not any different that you would be seeing on a Raw today. So if they're going to change, the concept on Raw to be more, hey, maybe a tag team match, 6-man, 8-mans, maybe a battle royal here and there, and a couple of squash matches, then it gives your pay-per-view more value because you're not seeing John Cena versus Randy Orton on a Raw, then a SmackDown, and then a pay-per-view, and then again on Raw again. Like they did in the past. I think that can do well. The In Your Houses didn't do well right off the bat. Their buy rates were really low, but wrestling was in a recession at the time, starting in '95, with these pay-per-views. So I'm interested that they kind of held packed on these. Like, oh no, we're gonna go, even though they're not making a whole lot of money. We're gonna continue to do this because they could have easily just no, we're not doing this. But again, WCW were having once a month pay-per-views, and they weren't making any money either. So until they got hot, in '97.
I think, like I said before, I think currently, if they learn from their mistakes and they make it worthwhile, it's going to be fun. But if it's one of those things where they're just doing stuff to fill airtime, it's going to flop again. Yeah,
I agree with that. So let's go over some of the funny In Your House names because I find them interesting.
Okay.
Starting with number 7, they started having subtitles. So we had Good Friends, Better Enemies. Main event was Diesel versus Shawn Michaels. In Your House 8, Beware of Dog. Which was Shawn Michaels and British Bulldog for the World Championship. Which is interesting because I think they were doing an angle where Shawn Michaels was hitting on Davey Boy Smith's wife and calling her a tramp and stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
Number 9 was International Incident. I guess their first international In Your House. It was in Vancouver. And it was Vader, Owen Hart, British Bulldogs versus the People's Posse of Shawn Michaels, Psycho Sid, and Ahmed Johnson. Number 10 was Mind Games, and that was in Philadelphia. And that's the one that had that great Shawn Michaels Mankind match for the belt. So that was a good matchup. Number 11 was Buried Alive, and that was Mankind versus The Undertaker in a Buried Alive match. Number 12, It's Time, which is Vader's catchphrase. Interesting, he's not in the main event. So it's Psycho Sid versus Bret Hart for the championship. Final 4 was Bret Hart versus Stone Cold versus Vader versus Undertaker, and a 4 corners elimination match for the vacant sport title. Number 14 was Revenge of the Taker. Main event being Stone Cold versus Bret Hart. 15, A Cold Day in Hell, which is Undertaker versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the championship. Undertaker was the champion at the time. Number 16, Canadian Stampede. Obviously, it was in Calgary. The Hart Foundation, which is Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, British Bulldog, and Brian Pillman, versus Steve Austin, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, and the Legion of Doom. Number 17, and this is where they start switching it. So they switched it from In Your House subtitle to now the name of the show and In Your House is the subtitle. So next up is Ground Zero In Your House. And the main event there was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Next up is Bad Blood, and that was Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in that Hell of a Cell match, which is fantastic. Next one was Degeneration X, which was Ken Shamrock versus Shawn Michaels. In a match that I don't remember, so I have to go back and check that out. Number 20 was No Way Out of Texas. It was Steve Austin, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, and Chainsaw Charlie, Harry Funk.
Oh no!
Versus Triple H, Savio Vega, the New Age Outlaw, in a non-sanctioned 8-man tag match. I believe it was supposed to be Shawn Michaels, but he was out injured.
Yeah.
So they replaced him with Savio Vega.
Oh well. Star power stays exactly the same.
Absolutely. Unforgiven, they had Dude Love versus Steve Austin for the championship. Over the Edge, they have Steve Austin versus Dude Love in a no disqualification for all count anywhere match, with Vince McMahon as the special guest referee. Next up, we have Fully Loaded, which was Rock versus Triple H in the 2 out of 3 falls match for the Intercontinental Championship, and Undertaker and Steve Austin versus Kane and Mankind for the Tag Team Championship. I don't ever remember Mankind and Kane holding the belts.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, they did. Breakdown, they had Undertaker versus Kane versus Steve Austin, and a triple threat match for the WWF Championship. Judgment Day, we have Kane versus The Undertaker, with Steve Austin as the special guest referee. Next up is Rock Bottom, Steve Austin versus The Undertaker in a very loud match. That was a good match, actually.
Yeah.
St. Valentine's Day Massacre, The Rock versus Mankind in a last standing match for the championship, and Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon in a steel cage match.
Oh, is that when the cage wall broke?
Yeah, when Big Show threw Austin through it, and then McMahon
Yeah.
takes that bump off the cage to the table and he kills himself.
Oh.
And the final In Your House, Backlash, Steve Austin versus The Rock in a no-hold-barred match with Shane McMahon as the special guest referee. If Austin touches McMahon, he would be disqualified, and the championship awarded to The Rock. Yeah. So again, it's interesting. It feels very Clash of Champion like, you know what I mean? Because if I run down these shows and I put Clash of Champions next to them, they would be, they're very similar shows, I feel. Although the Clash of Champions were given away for free. So there it is, folks. That's In Your House overall. I mean, can they do 20 pay-per-views a year? We'll find out this year. Again, if you guys don't have the network, I would suggest picking it up. It's worth the money. I love it. And if you're an old school wrestling fan like me, they got Georgia Championship Wrestling on there. They got Global on there, which is weird. USWA, Mid-South. You have your old Crockett stuff on there too. They have your house shows and stuff.
I haven't done it yet, but part of me is afraid once I do, I won't stop.
Yeah.
I love the old 80s territory stuff.
Yeah. And they have like house shows from Boston Garden, house shows from Madison Square Garden on there too.
Hell yeah!
I wish they had more of those, but they don't. Eventually, hopefully one day we'll see, because I want to see all the WWF Superstar episodes in 1989. That's my dream. That's what I want. But they're not there yet. There's actually no episodes of Superstars. There's a few for primetime wrestling, which are interesting. But there's a lot of content on there, and they have a ton more they can't put up there. So, and they have the original programming too. Would be Camp WWE, Swerve, which I don't watch, the Edge of Christian Show, which is really good. I want to see more of that coming up soon. All right, so that's all the time we have. Again, this has been In Your House for PlayStation 1.
In Your House.
And for Matt Riley, I'm Lex G.